Well, welcome back, Miss G. How are you?
Hi, wonderful, Miss B. Welcome back and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Hello, educators. This is Teacher Life with Miss B and Miss G.
Hi, Miss G. I'm a social studies educator.
I'm Miss B. I'm a ninth grade high school English teacher, and this is Teacher Life. Today, we're going to be talking about the best way to communicate with our parents.
And um, you might ask, what is parent-teacher communication? And parent-teacher communication is basically communication about the one thing that you and that parent have, or those parents have in common, and that is that your student and their child.
Yes, definitely. That one thing in common is the student. Let's talk about some tips.
Parent-teacher communication is basically communication about what you and parents have in common, and that is their child.
And so
So,
when we talk about communicating with parents, we want to make sure that we realize there are benefits. Many times as educators, we're like, do I need to call the parent? Well, more than likely, yes, because there's some benefits. Let's talk about some of those benefits.
all right. So, benefits, of course, of parent-teacher communication is benefit to the student. Okay, so who knows the child better than the parent? And so, if you're having some issues, some concerns about the child, it could be academic, it could be behavioral. Who best to contact and try to resolve some of those issues other than the parent, because the parent knows the child.
I agree. And many times when there are like really drastic change in behaviors or drastic changes in a scholar's academic performance, there may be some key issues that a parent can shed light on. I taught some brothers, and one of the brothers really was having a hard time. And so
Mm,
when I reached out to the mom, she was like, yes, we've had a death in the family, and he's taken that death pretty hard.
mm.
And that shed great light. And so the benefit for the student, once I got that information, I was able to tailor some activities that were less strenuous, but still standard based to kind of get him through the course.
Nice, nice. And benefits for teachers, of course, is we know that we have a partner in helping your child to get to whatever level, they're trying to get to when they're with us. I teach 10th graders, so I always see 10th grade as this transition period. You're coming out of ninth grade, you're in 10th grade, and you have 2 more years before you're sort of out of school and into the adult world. And so for me, it's nice to know that I can tag team with parents in trying to help students develop so they can move on to the next level of, wherever they're going after 10th grade.
Yes, definitely. And then the benefit for parents is they get more information. Parents, it's hard to parent a student, and you and I both are parents, when we don't have all the information. When our information is one-sided, coming from the scholar or the student, it really does help us as parents when we get that educator opinion, their view, and another look at whatever the circumstance and situation is. That way, when we talk and deal with whatever the problem or issue is as a parent, we have, I think, more information to make better decisions for our students to go back into that classroom and be more productive, uh, and to get what they're there to get, which is more education, more learning.
I definitely agree. I can't, tell you the amount of times that I've spoken to parents, and the parents are like, my student told me this, or my child told me that. So when parents and teachers get together, it's like we hear a lot of fantasies
Yes,
sometimes that we
definitely,
get from kids about each other. So
definitely.
most definitely. Okay, educators. The next thing on our list are some strategies for parent-teacher communication. All right. And the first strategy, as we all know, as educators, maybe twice a year, 2 or 3 times a year, we have parent-teacher conferences. And so that will be a great time to talk to parents when, parents show up, because sometimes we get to see them, sometimes we don't. And so that'll be a great time to talk to parents, communicate, get some information, and go back and forth and sort of set some goals for the learner for their future.
Yes, one of my tips is I always ask my parents, when we meet, can the child also meet with the two of
Mm.
us? So that way, all three parties who are involved in this student's educational process are in the room, having the same conversation at the same time.
Awesome, awesome. I agree. I agree. Another strategy for keeping in contact or communicating with parents are phone calls and emails. Now,
I
I'm an
love
email.
phone call. I'm a jump in because I know which one you like. I love the phone call. That gives me a chance to kind of get to know the parent a little bit, if that makes sense. Recently, I had an issue with one of my young ladies, and I wasn't going to call. And something said, no, call home. And when I called my parent, what I found interesting, she said, Miss Bass, everything you say, I know because it's true because I know my child.
Oh
And
my
she said,
goodness.
I'm going to apologize first, and then let's see what we can work out. And so she and I came up with our little game plan. But what I loved about that phone call was that the parent and I just kind of, not necessarily, I don't think I'll ever meet her in person, but what I realized, I don't know if you realize, children. So this parent was just a few years older than my child, and I had to tell her. She was like, "Oh yeah, I'm this age." I said, "Well, my daughter's around the same age," and she and I kind of chuckled because pretty much when she got off the phone, I think she talked when the little girl came to school the next day with her apology. I
Hmm.
said, "I don't know if you know this. Your mom and my daughter are the same age." She said, "Yeah, my mom stressed that," and I kind of laughed. Her mother probably said, "Girl, she old enough to be your grandmother." You need to go in there and behave.
Uh-oh.
This is, that's an older lady. And I kind of laughed. I said, dang, I am getting older where these parents are my kids' age.
Yeah, that
And
that
that
is
phone
very true.
call helps though.
I'm a big email person. I, I am hopping from one class to another, to planning, to student. And so emails are just quick for me. They, a record of what we've done. And so for me
Mhm.
to sit down and dial parents, I think, and sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. So
Mhm.
email is quick and efficient for me. And even sometimes, right smack then in the middle of class, if a student is, not on task, I might email a parent. That parent might shoot them a text. And then they'll look at me and like, did you just email my mother?
Yes.
Yes, I did. So I need you to get on task because I've already asked you, and now she's asking you. And so I love that about emails. They're quick and they're efficient.
Exactly. And they give a great record of the back and forth talk between parent and teacher. What are your
Agree.
thoughts on text messages? That's something I'm not into.
I'm not into either because, in the past, I've had student leaders and, we've exchanged phone numbers for just school activities with the leaders. And there's a couple of times, one time specifically, that a student leader asked me to write a letter of reference for her. And so I said to her, okay, I will. Give me all your, what is it, the brag sheet, all the things that you've done. And I sort of just like put it on my list. I asked her what date it was due, and I put it on my list. And so every day she came to me and I said, I promise you, I'm going to get to it, but I have this list and I know your date. And then her parents started texting me, like calling me and texting me like 10 o'clock at night. And I actually had to block them. You know,
Wow.
at first I told them it wasn't my work hours and that I was going to do the letter. But eventually I had to block them. So I'm not big on text messages because a lot of things get lost in translation. Now that can happen with emails, but I think the mindset of an email is this is a professional document. You know,
Yes, and you're typing in sentence form, paragraph format.
yes, but when you get into text messaging, I think because it's more informal, it has it might devolve. And that's sort of what I don't like about it. So I never use it. So that's it for me.
But there is something I see here on our PowerPoint, which I'm not interested in, is the Remind app.
Oh yeah.
Educators, you can research that on your own if that's something that interests you. But I don't think the two of us use it, so I don't have anything to say about it.
Well, I just started using it. It's sort of why it's highlighted because
Oh,
when I used it, the first thing I said to my students when I used it with my beta students, right? Because there's a lot of other teachers that use it, and the beta students were saying, "Why don't you just use Remind?" So I finally started using it, and then I said, "Hi, everybody! I've just joined the 21st century." Okay, and now I remind them when we have beta meetings, but I don't want to have to remind students of things that we've already discussed in class. I'm not going to remind you of homework because we've done that. We've done the agenda, we've gone through a class, you know what you have to for homework. So I'm not going to set up another system to remind you to do what we've already talked about. So it
I,
works for some teacher, but definitely not for me.
yeah, as far as classroom stuff, no,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. I use
Because
it
we have a
for,
learning management system. We can
yeah.
talk to them in Canvas. We've talked to them 90 minutes during the learning period. We
Mhm.
have for ninth graders, we have that agenda. You should have written the stuff down in your agenda. I am not going to be available 24/7 with the Remind app,
Yeah.
but I like open houses. Let's talk about that.
Well, I guess that's one of the downsides to text messaging and reminders, is that people think they have access to you 24 hours. But
Yeah,
open houses, we have open houses usually at the beginning of the year.
yeah,
And before we get to know these learners, the students, they come in with parents and we sort of get to meet parents, tell them about supplies, tell them about ourselves. And so it's a good time. A lot of times we see both parents, because as parents have busy schedules and they're working, if you think about parent teacher conferences, open houses, we tend to, in my experience, I've seen at least both parents. So that's a great time to get information and to get to know parents.
and what I notice is that the parents remember meeting us more so than we might remember meeting them. And
Mhm.
so I might say, I don't know if we met at open house. And oh yeah, we did. I said, great, great. She said, yeah, he or she will, share
Mhm.
what happened, and that helps me to kind of remember. But I love an open house because it feels like the beginning of school. That's why
Yeah,
I like it.
yeah,
It's like the community is all there together. There, we are there to learn about what's coming up versus all the bad stuff that happened.
yeah, yeah. And kids are sizing you up. They're looking at you. They've heard a thing or two. Like, let me let me see this Miss G before I go in her class
I
and
know
see
that's right.
if I'm going to be coming every day or skipping. Well, let's hope you won't be skipping. So, a couple of more strategies for parent and teacher communication is the Parent Teacher Association, the PTA, right? And so the PTA has been a long-standing member of the school parent teacher environment, you
I
know.
agree.
And so if you want to add some more about the PTA,
No,
okay, okay, all right.
but that I'm looking at the homework handouts and newsletters. I like to tell my parents if I'm talking, especially about missing assignments, I tell my ninth grade parents the first place to go is to ask for the folder, the binder. Take everything out. Let's see what's going on. That's the parent and student doing at home. Because what parents tend to say, do you have homework?
Mhm.
I tell my ninth grader parents, especially at that open house, do not ask that question. Because even as an adult, when my mother says, hey, Miss B, what did y'all do in school today? Miss G, I naturally tell my mother, nothing.
Nothing.
And my mother's like, okay, we've been going through this since fifth grade. So
You've
I
been.
tell my parents, ask to see the handouts. Let me see all of your handouts and papers for that particular class in question. Don't ask if there's homework because the answer is no.
Always.
Don't ask them, how was school? Okay. Don't ask them, what did you do today? Nothing.
Nothing.
We've done 30,000 things, and I, as the adult in the classroom, come home and say nothing. So once they pull out the handouts, the spirals, the composition books, and start looking at items where, hey, this looks like you started this, but it doesn't have a grade on it. Sit down and finish this.
Mhm.
And there, gives them a little bit more understanding of what the student's done and what he or she has not done.
Yeah, yeah. I have a daily agenda that students must write down when they come into class. So that agenda's on the board every day. And, they're supposed to write it down, put it in a notebook. There are times that they take a picture of it. I used to do notebook checks off and on. It depends
Mhm.
on the group of students that I have. Students that I have to follow up with, you know, I make sure they write it down and I follow up with a notebook check or something like that. Students are who are going to just do what they're supposed to do. They might take a picture, but they'll keep referring to it because I say this is our Bible. When you come in, it says what our opener is, what our lesson activity is, what our closing is, what our homework is. And so if this ever disappears, you know what's expected of you no matter what. And then I tell parents that too. I said, we have a daily agenda, so you can always ask for that. Well, let me see the agenda, even if they took a picture of it, let me see it so you know that this is what they did today in class. So,
I've seen your daily agenda and it's nice and thorough. And what I loved about it, I saw it the other day, it's nice and clean.
mm,
I would have been trying to have all the decorative PowerPoint crap and taken away from all that great information. And so what I'm thinking, I've been thinking it for a few days, that might be something for next semester when
mhm,
school starts in August.
mhm,
That's, we're gonna have a spiral notebook and they can every day. And
yeah,
they'll be not, it won't, it's already on my whiteboard. So we work from the whiteboard.
mhm,
I mean, the one that you write on.
yes,
I like that. But parents definitely need to know, they need to get into those folders, look at the handouts, any newsletters, copy down agendas will give them a great starting point for that academic conversation with their students.
agreed, agreed. All right, class websites. We're all told we have to have them. We have internal and external websites. We had this website where we have to have general information on, but then we have the e-class like Canvas now, where information is on there where students can actively engage and complete assignments. So for me, my syllabus, all that other good stuff is on the class website, but um, the classroom website, which parents can also access, and see what their students are doing is sort of a good way for parents to keep tabs, just like Infinite Campus. You have access to those things. So you can do a daily check-in, a little bit or a weekly check-in, and sort of see if your students are actually doing their work or what their grades are.
I'm laughing because I haven't looked at my class website in maybe 10 years. So I rely heavily on that folder. We have an interactive notebook. We have that agenda and Canvas, our learning management system. And
Mhm,
so definitely I send parents to Canvas. You
mhm.
can access the syllabus and you can see what unit we're in and what work should have been turned in via Canvas.
Yeah.
And I always stress to them when I'm on that phone or when I send home that what I call the newsletter a remediation form
Mhm.
that they need to also go through handouts, Canvas, and Infinite Campus.
Agreed. Agreed. Okay. Well, here are some tips. All right. Some for parents and some for teachers. So, some tips that I would give parents just to keep up with students in this whole communication piece. One,
Mm-hmm.
one would be to utilize, right, our school grading system. Ours is Infinite Campus. Grades are put in at least twice a week. And so you can sort of keep tabs with your child and their assignments. You can see their grades, you can see if they're doing well, if they're doing poorly. And then you can sort of tap in with that child when they come home to say, well, okay, I've checked your Infinite Campus and I see, you're doing well. So, good job. Or that you got a couple of zeros. So what's going on?
Yes. And then that having parents email us. I love it. I love a parent email.
Hmm.
What about
Hmm.
tips for teachers?
All right. So for me, the best tip that I have for teachers is don't forget the super students, right? The students that come in every day, they do
Yeah.
their work, they help you with other students sometimes. You see them in the corner saying, you do it this way, and they're assisting you. They're not only on task, but they're on, helping other learners. So I like to remember to drop parents an email maybe once a week or once every other week to say, look, thank you. Your kid is on point. Thank you, for
Yes, because they
sending us
love.
such a gracious human being, and not to leave them out.
I agree. We tend to we teach to the middle, and with parent teacher communication, we focus on the behavior issues or those who are struggling. And I feel like many times we forget our, like you said, super students. We forget them. And I think it's time for us educators to start reminding parents what awesome children they have sent us.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, educators,
Mhm.
hopefully you've enjoyed, some of these tips that we've given you about parent teacher communication. And if you have some tips and you'd like to share them, please drop them in our comments below.
Like and subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so that you can be notified when we upload our next video.
And thank you for joining us and enjoy your teacher life.
Enjoy your teacher life.